Blood smelled like copper and old pennies. Hospital politics smelled like lavender lotion and exhaustion. At Mercy General, Harper was known as a float nurse, the temporary extra who covered breaks, cleaned messes, and stayed out of the way. That was exactly how she wanted it. Nobody knew that before she wore blue scrubs, she had spent years in combat medicine, making life and death decisions under fire. On this particular morning, Nancy, the charge nurse, reminded Harper of her place. "Just do vitals, cleanups, and stocking. Leave the hard stuff to my core staff." Harper simply nodded. The emergency department buzzed with its usual chaos. Monitors beeped, phones rang, and exhausted staff rushed from room to room. When a resident struggled to start an IV on an elderly trauma patient, Harper quietly stepped in. With one calm movement, she secured access, pointed out signs of internal bleeding, and disappeared before anyone could thank her. That was her routine. Stay invisible. Stay forgotten. She repeated the same promise to herself every day. "You're just a float nurse now. No missions, no helicopters, no battlefield medicine. Just normal life." Hours later, while stocking an isolation cart, Harper felt something unusual, a vibration. Not through the floor, through her teeth. The sound instantly triggered memories she had spent years trying to bury. Black Hawks, military helicopters, heavy ones, more than one. Nobody else noticed at first. Then the direct emergency phone rang. The charge nurse answered and immediately went pale. Within seconds, panic spread through the department. Military aircraft were landing in the hospital parking lot. The ER erupted into confusion. Crash carts rolled, doctors scrambled, orders flew. Harper backed against the wall, wanting no part of it. Then the ambulance bay doors burst open. 4 heavily armed operators stormed inside, carrying a severely wounded soldier. The room froze. These men didn't look like ordinary patients or visitors. Their gear was filthy. Their uniforms were torn. Sand and dust covered everything. The casualty looked even worse. One leg was gone below the knee. A tourniquet barely controlled the bleeding. But Harper instantly saw the real problem. His chest. A sucking wound near the collarbone. A developing tension pneumothorax. He was minutes from death. The attending physician moved forward, trying to take charge. One of the operators blocked him. "Back off." The giant soldier scanned the room. Then he shouted, "Where is she?" Nobody answered. He looked at the nurses, at the doctors, at every face in the room. "We tracked her here." Harper's stomach dropped. No, not now. Not here. The wounded soldier suddenly worsened. His breathing became ragged. His body arched violently. The operators looked terrified. One shouted, "He's crashing!" The giant leader roared a name through the ER. "Where is Dusty?" The name hit Harper like a punch. Dusty. A call sign she thought she had left behind forever. The room remained silent. To everyone there, she was Harper, the float nurse. Nobody knew Dusty. The casualty gasped again. Time ran out. Harper closed her eyes. When she opened them, her hands were steady. The fear disappeared. Training took over. She stepped away from the wall. The giant operator recognized her immediately, not by appearance, by posture, by confidence, by the way she moved. "Move," Harper said. He stepped aside instantly. Everything changed. Harper assessed the patient in seconds. "He needs needle decompression now." Her voice cut through the room like a blade. She turned toward Nancy. 14-gauge angiocath, scalpel, chest tube tray. Nancy hesitated. "You're not authorized." Harper looked at her. Years of combat experience sat behind that stare. "Bring me the tray." Nancy ran. The room obeyed before anyone realized they were obeying. Harper located the correct landmark on the soldier's chest. No hesitation, no uncertainty. She drove the needle in. A violent hiss exploded from the catheter. Trapped air escaped. Blood followed. The casualty sucked in a desperate breath. Almost immediately, his color improved. Oxygen levels climbed. Heart rate stabilized. The resident stared at the monitor. "How did you—" "Temporary fix," Harper interrupted. "Chest tube." The tray arrived. Harper made the incision. The civilian staff watched in shock. To them, it looked brutal. To Harper, it was routine. She opened the pathway, cleared the space, and inserted the chest tube. Blood rushed through the tubing. Air escaped. The drainage system began working. The soldier's breathing normalized. Life returned. The room exhaled. Only then did everyone realize what they had witnessed. Not a float nurse, not an assistant, not a helper. An elite trauma medic operating at a level none of them had ever seen. The attending physician recovered first. "Move him to surgery!" Staff sprang into action. The casualty was rushed away. The operators followed. Within moments, the trauma bay emptied. Silence remained. Harper stood alone in the center of the room. Blood covered her scrubs. Her hands shook. Not from fear, from memory. The battle was over. The past was back. Without speaking to anyone, she walked into the sluice room. She turned on the water and began scrubbing her hands. Again, and again, and again. The blood disappeared. The smell didn't. Her knee throbbed where old shrapnel injuries still lingered. The memories returned. Dust, rotors, gunfire, loss. She leaned against the sink, trying to breathe, trying to become Harper again. The door opened. Wyatt stepped inside, the giant operator. Without the urgency of the emergency room, he looked exhausted. Years of war showed in his eyes. For a moment, neither spoke. Then he handed her a paper towel. "Nearest trauma center was 20 minutes away," he said. Hayes didn't have 20 minutes. Harper kept looking at the sink. "You violated protocol." "I knew you were here." Silence. "You shouldn't have come." "Yes, I should have." Finally, she looked at him. "I'm not Whiskey 6 anymore." "I'm Harper." "I cover lunch breaks." "I empty bedpans." "I hide." Wyatt nodded. "You can call yourself whatever you want." "But when everything fell apart, you didn't hide." "You took command." Harper looked away. "I hated every second." Wyatt smiled sadly. "No, you hated remembering." He was right. There was a difference. She hadn't hated saving a life. She had hated being reminded of who she used to be. Wyatt reached into a pouch and removed an old patch. Blood stained the fabric. He placed it beside the sink. "Whiskey 6. Harper stared at it. A piece of a life she had tried to bury. "Hayes is going to live," Wyatt said. "Because of you." Again, he turned toward the door. "If you want to stay a ghost, fine. We'll leave." Just before he walked out, Harper stopped him. "Tell Hayes he owes me a new pair of scrubs." For the first time all day, Wyatt laughed. "I'll tell him." Then he added softly, "Good to see you, Dusty." The door closed. Harper remained alone. The patch sat beside the sink like a monument to a past that refused to disappear. After a long moment, she took a deep breath and returned to the ER. The helicopters were gone. The vibrations had faded. Only fluorescent lights remained. Every staff member turned to look at her. Nobody knew what to say. The float nurse they thought they knew no longer existed. Nancy lowered her phone. "Administration wants to speak with you." Harper calmly picked up the masks she had dropped earlier and placed them back into the isolation cart. Then she answered, without looking up.
"Tell them I'm on my break."
The room stayed silent. Harper closed the drawer. "And when I get back," she added, "someone needs to clean Bay 1. Nancy blinked. Harper finally looked at her. "I don't do the heavy lifting. I just float."